Hi, and welcome to What's Next with Emma Arnold. I'm your host, Emma Arnold. This week we have an amazing guest, a dear friend of mine, and just an absolute creative powerhouse. This year during the pandemic, while I was just basically eating bread, he had a bunch of different projects he was working on and just did so many amazing things, including releasing a fantastic album called Anime, Trauma, and Divorce. Of course, our guest this week is none other than Open Mike Eagle, and it's a really, really good one. I think you're going to love it. So let's just get right to it. Enjoy. Hey, hi. It's so good to see you.
Yes, you too, even if it is through technology.
Yeah.
It's better than the zero that I've become accustomed to.
Me too. And we only ever got to see each other like once or twice a year anyway, so.
Is that all? I guess you're right.
It feels like more. Maybe it was more, but it feels like not enough. I never got to see you enough as much as I wanted anyway.
Yeah, because realistically, like you live in Idaho, and I was only there twice in my life.
Yeah.
And I think you were here like a few times while I lived here. So
yeah, I mean, I usually came to LA for 4 or 5 times a year, but you know, sometimes it's like quick, come in and out and do something and then go home. So
100%.
Yeah, but it's good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
How have you been? How's COVID doing for you?
Man, I'm like starting to want to feel like it's over. Because people around me are getting vaccinated left and right. So I'm starting to feel like, okay, it's about to be normal. The kids potentially about to go back to school 2 days a week, which seems like, what? Like that seems otherworldly compared to how things have been. So I don't know. I'm almost wanting to feel like, we survived, but I don't want to do it too soon.
I feel the same way. Like I don't want to get excited yet, but I'm at the wanting point, you know?
Yes.
I want to want.
As the kids say, my body's ready. I think that's what the kids say.
I feel like my body's not, but it wants to be.
I see.
I'm still like, I'm a little scared for everyone just because you've watched how stupid people have been pre-vaccine. And it's like once we get some vaccines in arms, I'm still kind of like, well, guys, we still need to be respectful.
Yeah. I don't know. I got to say, I don't all the way know why. Like once we're all vaccinated, I guess we're supposed to still wear masks. And I'll do whatever science says, I'll do it. But I'm not quite sure why in that instance.
I feel vaguely the same. And I guess it's because ultimately, like with my kids, they're online schooling right now, but they're planning to go back in the fall, but they can't get vaccinated. So it's like you still have a pretty large population of people who, for whatever reason, can't get vaccinated.
I see.
I think.
And they're just going to be little walking boogers just collected everywhere. I see. Okay.
It's
that makes
because of
sense.
the little walking boogers.
Yeah.
But you've done a lot of cool things during COVID. Like I really enjoyed your drive time radio.
Man.
I checked into that quite a few times just because it felt like the only a routine I had for a few months, early in COVID when we were all just kind of floating.
Yeah, it was something, and it's funny because it's part of why I started it, because I started to see people on Twitter, like I saw people encountering the notion that they didn't know what day it was anymore. And, being, when you're creative for a living, you just live like that. You live without ever knowing what day it is. So I don't know. I just kind of wanted to shepherd people into the void. So we started doing a little daily radio show that like grew into like this wonderful community and this cool space, and people would hang out every day, and then I had to stop doing it. Just stop doing it.
You had to, or you just like couldn't? You didn't have time. You didn't feel it anymore, or what happened?
So my life is kind of socially complicated. In that I'm a person, and then I'm a public figure, and then I have fans, and I've historically not always had the best boundaries. So creating a space every day where anybody could just show up It started to become trouble. It started to become like just as most people were looking for it as a place to come and, you know, commiserate, get support, just be in a cool environment. There were some people who I felt like were looking forward to it every day as a place to go make trouble for me. And it worked. It worked. I used to have to put on a face like trouble wasn't happening, but I was watching trouble happen.
Yeah.
And
it
just
that's like a skill set that it's akin to doing comedy, or I imagine playing music, where like you're focusing on your thing, but at the corner of your eye, you're watching a table of people have a very loud conversation.
Yes.
And so you're like, yeah, I'm in the middle of a joke, but I'm also watching this table erupt in laughter and not paying attention to me at all.
Yes.
But at the same time, you're right. It's like more personal. Like I've noticed that during live streams, I've been very much struggling with that because I've always been a very private person who's done a pretty good job separating like my public life from my private life, or tried to. I don't know that I've done a good job. I've wanted to do a good job. But like now people are just like in your bedroom with you, you know, and I was doing live like game nights and I was like, this makes me so anxious because literally we're like in my bedroom, and it's a hard thing to describe to people who aren't public people how invasive that feels. Right.
Because you have these little spaces that you call your own. Like when you're a public person, you have to carve out some things as private. You know, it's funny because because when you're a creative, there's always people telling you, hey, you know, go live, connect with your fans, like make yourself accessible. People love that type of stuff. And I'm like, okay, but if you look at the radio show, how I did that, I went live with a curated program every day. Like,
I mean, that's part of the reason I checked in is every day I was like, this is so much work. It was amazing.
Well, but what I'm saying it from this perspective, like, as much as that's supposed to be a thing where you let your hair down and people see another side of you, I wasn't going for that. Like at every moment of that thing had to be planned because I didn't want any chaos. You know. Yeah,
and because I mean, what you do, I've watched you on stage, you know, a lot of times, and what you do is very complicated, and it is very curated, and it is very timed. And so, of course, I'm kind of the same way. I'm not an improv comic, you know. I thought about this for 100 hours before I said it comic, you know. So I get that. Like, yeah, that kind of same. I feel the same way. I do these paint and chats, and I write down like a list of things to chat about, which I feel like as a professional talker, I should be able to just like jump in and talk for an hour. But I'll have like these moments where I'm painting and I'm like, I don't have anything to talk about. And I just feel panic, you know, and it's like early stage days.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I didn't want any of that. I didn't want none of that. None of that. I didn't want people to feel like they had to take over and start being the entertainment at any particular point either. I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah. I think sometimes in my live stream, I have wonderful people in my live streams who are just like fabulous. I don't know, just like they're entertaining and lovely, and they help move things along, and they keep people engaged. And then, you have people that you're just sort of, it's like a circus that you're just every day. It's just, you know, hopping in, sexually harassing you, and you know, like I'm sure you get a fair amount of that too. So,
well, you know, I'm sure it's a quite different quality than what you receive, and I wouldn't even go that far. I would say what I would experience is people in a lot of different ways just campaigning for attention. And that could be, you know, men, women, anybody. There's just people who would use it for that, you know, and that kind of feeds into the issues I was talking about that I was having before. Is that, like, you know, in whatever fashion people felt most comfortable, there were people who would, you know, they would find their way to shine. And it was a lot.
It always occurs to me, like when I'm in a meeting, or like I've been doing a lot like more activist type stuff here during COVID because I'm here and I have time. So like, going to public meetings and stuff like that, that you're like, oh, not everybody just can go to an open mic. I mean, actually everybody can, but not everybody does. So you'll be in something where somebody is like, they finally have attention. They finally have all eyes in a room on them.
Yes.
And they're just like you can just feel what a hard on they have for it. And they just can't you sort of realize, oh, not everybody just can kind of like step out of the door, get attention when they need it, and then shut the door again.
Right. Whereas we have to find ways to like not get it, like to stop getting attention because we get overwhelmed. Yeah, there are people who starve for it, and at the first sniff of it, they lose their fucking minds.
Yeah, I'm more on the. I watched this amazing documentary at the beginning of COVID called Crip Camp, which is phenomenal, and I want to make everybody watch it. It's all about disability activism from the 70s and how that's carried on now. But there's this line in it by this woman. I mean, literally, it plays through my head a couple times a day where she's talking about how disabled. In fact, I'm getting chills talking about it. She talks about how privacy is a human right and how able-bodied people get to take that for granted, whereas disabled people don't get to have that. Like you live in a world where like people, your caretakers see you naked, they see you shit. You don't get to have privacy. And after I watched it, I thought, man, being a real kind of celebrity is sort of like that too. That's why I don't understand people who are desperate to get like J-Lo famous, because it's like you lose this very important human right. And then you see like, historically Britney Spears, Paris Hilton, all these people who've gotten very, very famous and then sort of chewed up by the patriarchy and the machine. Like it is, I just think about that all the time, about how privacy is this human right that usually I'm on stage, I tell you a bunch of vulnerable things, then I go away and you don't know where I live. You don't know what my bedroom looks like. You don't see my kids. It's like, it's a very different world right now, privacy wise.
Yeah. I have this weird thought, and I don't know how I got to this thought. I don't know who I was in conversation with, but like, so there's couples that enjoy taking showers together. Trust me, this is going somewhere. Somehow in the conversation, I got to talking to somebody about like whether or not Beyonce and Jay-Z, who can surely afford the biggest shower there is, whether or not they do that. And when I put myself in what I imagine either one of their headspaces to be, I'm like, no, they don't.
No way.
They don't do that. Mm-mm. Why? Exactly. Like they're around people 1,000,000% of the time. Like when they have kids too, like when they have 10 to 15 minutes, half an hour to be alone, there's no way they're inviting anybody else into that. There's no way.
Yeah.
You couldn't put a price on what that 10 to 30 minutes must feel like for them.
Yeah. Oh, you're so right. Because even, I mean, I don't know this, but I'm assuming they have like people who work for them in their house too, which exactly. I think seems really nice to a lot of people, but also like that's someone in your house every day, which for me would be a real problem because I don't even like the people that live here being in the house with me all the time. So it's like, you're so right. I imagine they have separate bathrooms where like the other person's not, it's a shrine. It's a sacred area. Nobody goes in Beyonce's bathroom.
Nobody goes in there.
She cleans it herself. That's how sacred it is.
She could potentially clean it
she doesn't,
herself.
But.
I mean, maybe once symbolically, maybe there's one cleaning tool nobody else can touch. Like the golden brush. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's a funny thing because I remember, after all of this therapy and going to treatment and sort of starting in for the first time, like to do like real intimacy with people. When I was early on dating my current partner, we were in the shower together and I was like, oh, I get it. This is like non-sexual intimacy. This is like where like you're getting to see someone's routine. You're getting to see like they wash their pits and then their ass. And then they shave a little spot that nobody knows is hairy except for me. You know what I mean? Like it was so like, oh, I see. This is like this intimacy people have been telling me about for years that I was like, I don't care about that. I just want the sex. And then it was like the showering all of a sudden it was like this aha moment of like, this is very intimate.
Now I get that from like working alongside a partner. Like they're doing their work, I'm doing my work. We're back to back or next to each other on a desk or something like that. That's when I get that because I feel like, we're sharing our work worlds. And because I'm a creative, I often don't get to have like that kind of office mate experience. So like that's always pretty cool to me. In a relationship, but that shower thing, I want nothing to do with it. I want nothing to do with it. I want nothing like
you're
like
Jay-Z, huh?
yeah. Well, but the thing is, for me, I think it's mostly just reflective of my experience with shower size. I just don't want anybody else. I don't want like. There's no room. That's exactly like that's not fun. It's dangerous. One of us is gonna fall. It's bad.
That is true. And like, I feel like. I probably don't have a hard time showering with other people because I just will shamelessly hog the water the whole time. Like I'm not at all like, people will be like, I hate showering with other people because I get cold and they, you have to switch off in the water. And I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm in the water and you're standing there waiting. I'm a monster. I'm a shower monster. Oh
my God. See, that's the thing. You should be able to be a monster in your shower.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the few places you should be able to make whatever face you want. Whatever sounds come out of your body, whatever odd thoughts you want to just have for a second. I just cannot imagine wanting to like, I don't know. It doesn't seem appealing to me to share that.
I guess I probably have that somewhere else. Like, I'm trying to think of somewhere where I'm like, get away from me. This is my time. And honestly, this is so embarrassing, but this is what it is. It's when I'm writing a tweet. That like if somebody's sitting next to you reading over your shoulder,
yes,
as you're writing a tweet and they like look over and you're like, nope, no, you can't do that. No, this is private time. This is my crafting. I guess maybe it would be when I'm writing jokes or something too, but I don't know. That doesn't seem as intimate. And I'm kind of
I think I see it with the tweet thing because I mean that's a moment or many moments of intense concentration of something has to be ready for the world now. Like you have to, like there's no committee, there's no execs, there's no notes process, it's just like you and the world. And it takes a lot of brain.
And it's embarrassing. It's like getting caught picking your nose, or staring at your belly button. Like Twitter is masturbatory and it's
supposed to feel effortless.
Yeah. And you're supposed to be like, funny tweet, shoot it off. But instead I'm like, should I say the or what or the? And I like read it 95 times, the, and that's embarrassing to have somebody watching you going like, this is how much time you put into this. And you're like, yes. Okay.
Yes. And everybody does. That's the thing too. We all fronting on there. We all trying to act like, this random thought I just had. Look, that's cute. No, we slave over. We beat them with hammers until they're perfect.
Yes.
Like it's just one of those things that makes me wish that there was more space for real thought and feeling in those spaces. Like those spaces are so, we're expected to be so clean. and I don't mean clean in terms of like language, just clean in terms of presentation and not being messy and not fumbling and I don't know. It's just I wish there was like a setting or something in Twitter where you could hit a button and go to like dark Twitter where like everything's okay and nobody holds it against your daytime self.
Yeah.
Like something like that.
I feel like that's sort of what Gen Z is doing. Like I'm watching my kids, not that they are Twitter is old people like
they have no interest.
No
interest.
None.
Yeah.
But the spaces they are on are more like real. Like they're not using filters on pictures and they're not, you know what I mean? Like they are just sort of posting their thoughts in the moment on these little, apps and little things that they do, Discord and TikTok and Twitch and all these little things. So it's like, Maybe they have it. We're older, so we're still of the curated Facebook generation.
But TikTok is like the most curated place on earth. That's, and so it's like they're doing sophisticated editing, and I can't even wrap my head around sometimes. Like,
well, my kids don't even do TikTok. Like I joined TikTok and they made fun of me because it's an old people place, and I was like, what? Oh no. They were like, "Oh,
so
mom's
they're just on
TikTok."
they're on Discord, but Discord is just like separate, disparate groups of people, right?
Yeah, and I think that I guess maybe that's kind of what they're doing is like I don't really see them doing like social media in the way I mean, obviously we use it for promotion and for blah blah blah, but like when I've kind of said something like, "Oh, this is a cute picture, you should post it," they're like, "Ew, for who? Why?" And it's just a different the idea of like, "Oh, I really want the world to know me." My kids are like, "What? No, gross. The world is gross."
Are your kids very into YouTube?
Very into YouTube.
Yeah, my son is
constant YouTube.
Yeah, constant. Same here.
And does he watch video games? People playing?
Of course.
Yes, that's it.
Like
that's
he's doing it right now. Like, well, he's in the bathroom. When he comes back out, he'll be doing it right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I don't really get it. I do it on Twitch a little bit. People seem to enjoy it. It makes me it's like everything else. It makes me very anxious. I'm like, all right, watch me be bad at video games for a half hour, I guess. It's embarrassing.
What do you play?
I have always really liked an old school world builder game. So I really like Heroes 5, Heroes of Might and Magic.
Okay.
I really like
Not even familiar
Orion,
with that.
Masters of Orion 2.
Okay.
I love that stuff.
Games that I don't know about.
Yeah,
I don't
they're
even
like
know about
older games. I didn't play for like 10 years. I was like, because I was so addicted to WoW at one point. And I was like, I'm not going to play video games till I have my career at a point where I feel comfortable and happy with it.
When you play WoW, do you play WoW for like hours?
I used to, yeah. And I was in a guild and we did raids and stuff, but I don't care about any of that. I like the quests, okay? I like, you know what I like? I like a never-ending task is what I like. I like something that goes on forever and you're never going to feel like you accomplished anything, except you do get these little dopamine hits along the way. And
well,
so the kids actually just talked me back into playing WoW again. I just started playing again like 4 days ago because they were like, I was like, no, I can't. And Calvin was like, you're literally the most accomplished person I know. I feel like your career is where you want it to be. You can play some WoW during a pandemic. And I was like,
permission. WoW permission.
Yeah. So I started playing
cool.
again and immediately was like, yeah, this is what I like. I like a little task that leads to another little task that leads to another, forever.
I play a lot of video games. Somebody in my life is a big WoW person, so I tried it, and I could. I like video games with combat in them. So I play like Overwatch. I play a lot of these like Dark Souls games that are all like very combat heavy and very like technical. And I tried the WoW, and the WoW, the combat is just it's unsatisfying to me because you're just pressing a button and the guy's doing a thing, and then like some numbers happen, but there's no visceral feeling to it.
Yeah, no,
it drives me crazy.
The kids made me play Overwatch, and I was like, this is everything I hate. And you guys,
very intense.
I hate to run around. I hate to be yelled at. I get nauseous. If I turn too quick, I get seasick. And also, I don't like shooting games. I don't like to kill anything. That's why, like if in WoW, if you're like, go kill 8 Grumkin and skin them for their pelts, yes, I'll kill some Grumkin. But like people, I'm a mom, and at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, well, why are we killing these Overwatch friends? It's like, I hate that stuff.
To accomplish vague goals.
Yeah, it's all vague. I think when I quit playing WoW, part of it was because, I mean, it was probably, 12 years ago. And I was like, one day I just had this like feeling of like, oh, this is all like pixelated bullshit. All these accomplishments are just pixelated bullshit. And I was like, I want to like accomplish some stuff in the real world. I want to like, like live in the real world. And then I think this last year I was like, no, I don't. I'm going back to the pixelated bullshit.
Yeah, man.
It turns out it's all arbitrary. It's all, none of it means anything. So
yeah, because everything that we work so hard for stopped.
Yes. I was just listening to your album, right? Which, by the way, congrats on the new album.
Thank you.
It's phenomenal. Anime Trauma. Do I say the plus divorce or do I just say divorce?
And you can just say
divorce. Divorce. Mm-hmm. Anime Trauma and Divorce. I was listening to Everything Ends last year. Is that is that right? Oh my God.
That is, yeah.
Such a perfect song and so beautifully. I mean, I love all your music and it was so beautiful, but I was listening to it and I was like, it was the first thing I've heard, seen, or felt like experienced from another artist that described what this year has felt like for me.
You know what's really interesting about that song? Because the chorus or the refrain is "It's October and I'm tired," and it came out in October 2020. I wrote it in October 2019.
I wondered about that. I was like, I think this is more on the divorce end.
Yeah, it was my 2019 sad boy song, but it ended up fitting right in. Yeah. Ended up fitting right in the next calendar year.
And it was. I mean, we both have established careers. We've been at this a long time. I felt sort of lucky during COVID because like everything stopped, but at the same time, I have a lot already sort of stacked behind me to be like, yeah, I still had a career, even if I don't right now. But I was watching people who were fresher in comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine, you just put in 2-3 years, you think you've gotten the hang of it. 4 or 5 years in, you're like, oh, you're just finding the gear and you're getting it. And then it's like, you're done. You have to take a year off. That seems brutal.
Yeah. I mean, I think the same for young musicians, especially if they're independent and not going like the big major label route. Like, because the revenue from recorded music was already way down just because, we're in the streaming age now, which is an impediment to anybody trying to get in and make a living. To add to that, not being able to go do shows, it's like, what I would not know what to tell a person starting right now. I'd no advice. Like, what do you do?
Yeah. Comics, like a young comic had contacted me and was like, hey, I just wanted to talk to you about like having a career in an off market area, like how you've done that. And I was like, I don't really know what to say to you. I don't know. Like
you should probably move.
Yeah. You should move. And also, could you be an accountant is my advice, Like, do you have a fallback right now? Because
this is fallback time.
Yeah.
This is fallback time for sure.
Did you appreciate the break? We both toured like maniacs the last 5 years. Did you appreciate the break this last year? How's it been being off the road?
No, I didn't. Because I just got very used to not being in one place this long. Mm-hmm. I got very used to that. It feels strange. Like it feels odd not to travel. It feels odd not to have like my suitcase ready to go. Like there's stuff I've taken out of suitcases, like out of my gear bag and stuff that like if something popped up tomorrow, I wouldn't know how to even collect myself now, where I was so ready all the time before. So I don't know. I think I was tuned to traveling and touring and just that being a lifestyle that I was kind of shaped into. And so it's just been really odd. Because I think the back and forth in my brain is, oh yeah, it's a break, but like, do I start to think that it might never be the same again? Do I, like, is it gonna come back? Like, or when it does, what is my space in it? What is my station? So there's just been a lot of trepidation, I guess is the right word. And I've been able to fill the time with good stuff, but I don't know. I've also, I turned 40 during that thing, and
yeah, me too. Congrats, by the way.
Well, yeah, we made it. We survived.
Yeah, we did.
But there's a series of long conversations you have to have with yourself when you're 40 and a rapper. Like you have to there's some real mirror talks that what I'm saying, like I have to figure out what the future is, especially like losing a year. Like I just have to really come to some kind of terms with what the next 5 years looks like,
Yeah, I am having the same talks with myself because we both toured in a lot of indie places that are closed now. Like a lot of the
Yes.
venues I love
Yes.
all over the country are closed. And so a lot of my contacts are no longer good. A lot of the tour stuff that I could throw together, in a weekend, if I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go do the South and I could throw that together pretty quick, is gone. And I don't, and I've been like, you know, I've just kind of been like, I don't know. Do I even, like you said, the trepidation of that? I'm like, do I want to tour like that? It was hard on the body. It's hard on the soul. It definitely contributes to like, I miss it, but I also am like very aware that it was like contributes to loneliness and mental illness.
Yes.
And
Yeah, for sure. It opens the door to shit that's challenging. Yeah.
yeah. And that I know that the level of exhausted I was, like physically when I was touring, I'm like, could you do that again? Like, because you get up at 4:30 and you have a flight and then you go and then you get to the hotel, you have a half hour to get ready. Then you go and you perform for 2-3 hours and then go to bed. And then you do the same thing the next morning for weeks, and I've been like, are you going to be able to do that again? Or are you going to are you changed? Are you a lap dog now?
Are you domesticated?
Yeah.
I often think of this because I would do the same kind of routine, but usually with my thing, it's driving, right? Like, we'll hop in a van at 9, 10 a.m. and be driving for 6 or 7 hours. You get to a place, maybe you have time to stop at the hotel. You got to go sound check, and then you get dinner, and then you do the show. In our shows, doors will be like 8. And a lot of times we don't leave a place until 2 a.m. Maybe try to find some little bite to eat after that or something. Sometimes we're hanging out, and usually it's about 3 or 4 days into a tour where it's like, okay, I kind of have this like rolling hangover thing. It's like every day it's rolling, and I'm definitely not getting enough sleep because I'm not even making those kind of choices. But the show never really suffered, and like that sort of like that push through that happens every night, where it's like when it hits like 10:30 and I'm like exhausted, but like when I hit the stage I am 100% on. Like I don't know what to do with that. Outside of touring, like I don't know like what like that reserve of energy that I find on those exhausted nights, like night after night, like that's a weird muscle that I've honed.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else to do with that.
I'm just doing insomnia with it.
Okay. I guess that's a parallel. I can see that.
Well, for real, because I feel like physically, yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because we would do an 8 show and a 10 show, but by the time I'm headlining, it's like 11:30 ish, and then afterward, yeah, you hang out, you have adrenaline and you hang out, you eat, so you don't get back to the hotel till 2 or 3. And I feel like it's been so hard for my body to not realize that I no longer need a shot of adrenaline at 8 and another one at you know what I mean? My body would be like, all right, here's your 9 p.m. shot of adrenaline. Here's your 11:30 shot of adrenaline. And I'm like, no, I just want to go to bed. I just want to go to sleep. I don't have anything going on. And I wake up, like I have this weird second wind every night around midnight. That a lot of times I'll wake up at around like 1 a.m. and I'm wide awake if I go to bed early, So I want it to stop doing that or go back out and tour. Got to figure it out.
Yeah, because these skill sets, they don't translate to much else.
No.
When you're out there at night making it happen, entertaining, like, you build up this certain musculature, and it's difficult to know how to direct that energy,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's true in a lot of ways. Like I've noticed all these like little muscles that I used to have, for writing jokes, for I don't know, just all these things. They just don't really translate to sitting alone in my living room, particularly.
Right.
Well.
That's different worlds. Two different
even
worlds.
if I'm doing a live stream or whatever. Well, we're gonna hop into the actual podcast. I'm gonna go pee real quick, so we'll take a break, and then we're gonna hop into the questions. Okay.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay. Just become like a normal break in the podcast because I always have to pee a half hour in for some reason.
So you know your body.
I do.
It's good.
All right, let's hop in. I kind of warned you about the first question. What is the? Have you ever? What's that's? I'm okay. I'm going to start over because that was
Okay.
This is not my most professional intro. Okay, we're gonna hop into this first question, and I'm just wondering, what is the closest you've ever come to dying? Do you have any near-death experiences?
Okay, so my mind immediately goes. So if you heard my album, there's a song on there called 1520 Feet Ocean Now, and me and my son do this song we recorded a day after what felt like a near-death experience, even if it wasn't literally, because we were wearing life jackets, so it was impossible for us to drown physically, but psychologically, it very much felt like, oh, this could be it. Like it very much, and for the people listening. So we were on a cruise. It was an entertainment cruise. It wasn't just like a cruise for cruise sake, because I'm not that kind of person. But I did bring the family, and we went on a snorkeling expedition, and this was like a very touristy, non-caring snorkeling expedition. So the route was just straight out into the ocean, 30, 40 minutes in a boat, and then they stopped it at a place, and they put life jackets on all of us and just said, you snorkel here. And I can swim to save my life. Or actually, after that experience, I'm not even sure if that's true, because so I jump in the water, and I don't even jump in. I lightly step in, and I was in the water for about 6 seconds, and I don't know what my body did, but whatever it did, by the time I turned around to look back at the boat, the life preserver was already in the air, headed in my direction. Like they could just tell that I was not gonna do well. So I grab it, and I they're pulling me back up, but just in that moment, while I was in there was just such a terror at like the open water and being so far away from the shore, and just knowing that like there was nothing but death below me. And then people were getting stung by jellyfish and shit. It was like, I didn't know I could get that scared that fast. And I've been in some harrowing situations in my life. Car accidents. I've been around shootouts. I've been in some awful situations, but the terror I experienced in that moment was like nothing I could imagine. And I, like I said, life jacket on. There's no real reason for me to be concerned with anything except for the millions of tons of liquid death below me.
I am so right there with you, and I feel like we are, as humans, supposed to be that afraid of the ocean. We're just genetically, we're supposed to be that scared of open water, and I do not understand people who are not. Like, that's a different genetic tree than what I'm on, and right. I'm so scared of open water, and I have gone swimming. I kind of force myself to, because I'm like, no, I don't want to miss out on cool stuff because I'm scared of it, but like, I'm right there with you. Like I won't ever scuba dive. I get it. It looks fun and gorgeous. I'm not gonna do it. Don't need to. Yeah. And I love the ocean. I love tide pooling, and I love wading, and I love like looking at it, and I respect it.
Yeah, I respect it.
And I stay out of it.
And I need a boat, Yeah. I need a boat. I need a vessel, a craft. I can't just be in the water like that. It's just not tight for me. And like, even when I'm in a pool, like, what helps me about being in a pool is that I can see all of it.
Yeah.
And like not being able to see, like just not having any psychological sense of where the bottom is, that's too much for my brain to handle.
Oh yeah, I have it in a lake. I will swim in a lake, but the whole time I'm in a panic and pretending not to be. Like I'm just like, oh, this is great. I love it. I love it. I'm having so much fun. And then I'll even like be swimming back to the boat. There's a big lake here called Lucky Peak, our big reservoir, and we go out with friends and swim there. And I'll like jump in and be swimming back to the boat, and my body is like, I want to be swimming as fast as I can and screaming, but I kind of like make myself like leisurely, like, you're fine. There's nothing. I've been that way since I was a kid. I've always been terrified of deep water. We're the Jaws generation.
True.
You know, that fucked me up real hard on deep water as a kid, and I don't think I ever recovered. I just am not. It's too scary.
Yeah, like so. Yeah, it's funny because it reminds me of how like I'm still as a grown person. Like I'm deathly afraid. Like not afraid. Like I have a deep aversion to cocaine or anybody being on cocaine
Oh
around
my gosh,
me.
yes,
Like I
me
hate
too.
it. I hate it. Like and I think it's from the same thing. Like I think just like Just Say No and Dare, all of that was like really heavy when I was a kid, and I think I really took it to heart. Like you're gonna die.
Yeah.
you're putting that stuff in your nose. You're gonna die.
I think I have the same thing. In fact, on one of your songs, I think you say, "Don't." I hate when my homies text me on cocaine. And when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, me too." And I hate being around comedians and stuff when they're on cocaine, and it makes me feel like that same deep ocean feeling, kind of like, I don't know, like this could go anywhere. There's anything, And I never did cocaine, partly because I smoked it once in junior high, which is not, it's not a great sentence. It's not, I'm not proud of that. It was just laced on some stuff. And later I was like, I think this is the drug I shouldn't do. You know what I mean? Like I just was like, this is the one for me, for sure. It turns out there's a lot of them, but like that one for sure.
Yeah, man, people are weird around. Like I can remember being in like like sometimes you're at a show, and like South by Southwest or somewhere like that, where it's just like show after show after show, and like I'm in the green room with a bunch of people I don't know, and like suddenly somebody gets up and locks the door. I'm like, oh my God, here it is.
Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like suddenly it is like that deep water feeling, because suddenly it's like, oh my God, like the whole mood's about to change. Everybody's about to get all unpredictable and weird, and
and we're gonna start
not
like
fun.
Doing just like a deep marina trench of riffing that I don't want to go down to the bottom of with you. I don't. If somebody, that always happens. Everybody starts doing coke and then riffing. We're doing the riffs, and I'm just like, I'm gonna go have some water in the hall.
That's funny. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's funny too, because like my current partner. So when I was in Mexico I filmed like a short thing down there, and everybody but me and a couple, like one other person, everybody went to they all went cave diving, just like you said, like some tourist thing where like some guys showed up and were like, hey, we're taking people, and everybody else was like, oh, for sure. And I was like, never. I never do that. I was like, and everybody was kind of like teasing me and stuff, and I was like, I feel like you guys all know me well enough to know I never go cave diving with strangers,
Right,
like that's just. And
it's not safe, man.
Yeah. And my current partner,
safe.
he's like, he would do it. Absolutely. Alex in fact, we were talking about like, he was like, oh yeah, I did that in the Philippines. I blah, blah, blah. Somebody was just like, do you want to do this? And I was like, sure. And I was like, well, I guess you can go do that. And I will have a life insurance policy on you, because that's too far for me.
Don't you just love people who have that inherent feeling of safety? Don't you just love them? It's so admirable to me.
It's incredible to me. I'm always wowed by it. And I don't know if it's, he's a straight white guy who grew up with two parents, he was never abused as a kid. He just was loved. And like, I met his family and I was like, what an incredibly normal group of people. Just nice people with a little bit of money and all really good cheekbones, just, and nobody in his family is scared of anything. They're all like that. And I don't know if it's that nothing bad has ever happened, so they just don't know that the world is very dangerous, or if it's like genetic, like they're, they haven't had that genetic trauma imprinted on them, so they aren't like, no, be careful. They're just not scared of anything. I wish I was like that. Sometimes
I wish I was like that too.
when I start getting like anxious, like when I'm like, I have cancer, I think, would Alex think he has cancer? And then I just try to model that and be like,
oh, that's awesome.
I don't have cancer.
That's really helpful sounding.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds like a really useful thing in life.
Yeah.
To be able to model that feeling of internal safety. That's incredible.
Well, because like I have lumps in my breast and I have to go in and get them checked. And I had a new one that was very large. And I was sitting in the parking lot, terrified and super anxious. And like was like, I'm sure it was cancer. I was 100% sure it was cancer. And then I was, Alex, if you're like, it's cancer, he's all, no, it's not. It's fine. He's just so chill about everything. And I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to pretend I feel that chill. I'm going to be like, it's not cancer. And I'm not even worried about it. And
well, that's great.
It wasn't. And I was like, maybe that's a new neural pathway.
Ooh.
That I'm like, it's not. And then it wasn't. My brain's like, aha.
I'm gonna applaud how you handled that, because I could also see how him saying that could be fucking infuriating. So like, I'm glad that you found like the way to do that peacefully. Like,
he's just been right a bunch of times where I've been like, the worst thing is gonna happen here. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, it'll be fine. And then it's fine. And I think probably for the most part, he's right that a lot of the stuff, I'm like the ocean, I'm not scared of drowning in the ocean. I'm scared that a never before seen beast is going to come up and rip out my belly while I'm swimming. That's probably not going to happen.
Probably not. That's probably not. Drowning's probably more likely.
Probably. Especially with it sounds like the way both of us swim. So. Well, that's a good one. I haven't had an ocean one before, which is surprising because I think it's a deadly monster waiting for us all. So
it's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what ocean means in Latin.
I didn't realize. The second question is, and I kind of know a little bit about your background, so let's get your background first, and then I'll ask you the question. But talk to me about how you were raised religious-wise. Like
very Christian. When I was being raised by my mom's parents, which was like the core of my existence, it was like understood Black people Christian, with no real discipline or follow through on anything. And there was a church at the end of the block that I could go to whenever I felt like any Sunday I felt like it. Me and the other kids in the building would go to that church, and I would start to go just for them, like just because we were in a neighborhood where we couldn't really like just go play outside all the time. So going to church was like social life outside of school, and a way to like connect with the kids in the neighborhood. But none of the Christianity was informed by any sort of actual teaching or discipline or anything of that nature. When I was 13, my father entered the ministry, and he's been a church pastor for the last probably 20 years. So he's heavily into it. There was a time when I was in high school, early college, where I was heavily into it, trying to learn and understand things, with the Bible. Around college, I just started thinking my way out of all of that. And he's still, he's a pastor. He's that's his everyday life, but he doesn't put it on me. Kind of lets me do my thing and respects that. And yeah, I think I've given you way more words than you asked for.
No, not at all. Not at all. I just wanted a background a little bit because you talked a little bit about that feeling, kind of, you've been in dangerous situations before, but then in the ocean was the first time you really were like, oh, well, I could die here,
Mm-hmm.
And in general, what's your relationship with like your mortality? How you doing with that?
Pretty chill,
That's pretty great.
I had this other situation. I was I was in Uganda, doing this rap project with some Ugandan rappers and a guy from LA who I went with, and we were staying in the house where this Ugandan kind of nonprofit operated. And when we got there, we were told this house takes on water, but we didn't know what that meant. We were there for a couple of weeks. One night, it started raining, and it just would not stop raining. And water started coming into the house, like the house started flooding. And apparently this was just something that happened all the time. And the water would maybe got like a foot deep. But it, hold on a second. One. Sorry about that.
No, I'm surprised.
Kids.
I had to yell when I went pee, yelled them to stop skateboarding on the stairs. So they were like right outside my bedroom, and I was like, "Hey, I remember I said fuck off."
Right. Still, like the fuck off light is still on.
Still that.
But yes, it started raining one night, and the water level got about a foot high. And this was like overnight, so this maybe like 1, 2 in the morning. And it still would not stop raining. And like, I remember having this thought like, oh, right, it doesn't have to stop raining just because there's people here. Like, that's not how anything works. Because I think I'm used to being in situations that are safer than the elements. Mm-hmm. You know, like I would think that there'd have to be some terrible hurricane or disaster for me to be in a place that was flooded. But they were in a situation where there weren't a lot of resources, and they just had the house that they had, and that house happened to be at the bottom of a hill. And if it rains too much, they're just fucked. Yeah. And that's it. And like, and it just gave me this stark understanding of the universe we live in, and how like just minuscule we are in it, and how it doesn't care about us. It just doesn't, like, it's not made of some caring consciousness that is nurturing us. And I haven't consciously had a thought, you know, in contrast or to the contrary of that in years, but it was just this stark reminder, like, you could die at any time. Like there's no reason why a fire wouldn't burn you. There's no reason why the water would stop just because it's going to go in your lungs. Like, you know, you could get hit by a car, a missile, a rock. The universe is random and chaotic, and you can die at any moment. And like, you know, like that's kind of where I operate now in terms of like mortality. It's just like, no, like just not having any energy put into this thought that like there is something that's going to save me. Like, cause shit just happens a lot. And we tend to structure our society in a way to reduce the mathematical probability of that shit happening. But that's the best we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I lived in Gulfport, Mississippi for a while, and I was in a tropical storm. I can't remember which one, but we were in a tropical storm, and, you know, we were from Idaho. We didn't know. People were still like out driving around and doing stuff. So we were like, it was rainy. It was very rainy and very windy. And we went out to go eat with our new baby at Ruby Tuesdays. And we were sitting there, and the waitress came over, and she's like, we're going to get your stuff to go because the rain's ramping up and you probably should get home. And we were like, oh, okay. And when we got out to the car, when we were driving home, the rain was coming in so hard sideways. It was like pushing the car, and you couldn't see anything. And there was a foot of water on the freeway. And I was like, this is a tropical storm. This isn't even a hurricane. And I had the same thought of like, people live here, and this is just like their normal. Like a tropical storm, nobody was even like fussed, you know, like none of our neighbors were fussed about it. And we moved there. We moved a few months, I think, before Hurricane Katrina, actually. Maybe a year. I can't remember, but it was very close. And I can't imagine living through a hurricane. And it did same thing. I had the same thing of like, oh, if you live in a place with like actual weather, with tornadoes or hurricanes or something real, you probably have a lot more respect for the fact that the universe doesn't give a fuck, you know?
Right.
It's a lot different. Man, this working
Yeah.
from home stuff, huh?
Yeah, we're all in Zoom class together. Is the
Yeah.
way I like to think about it.
It's so wild. Two of my kids are like, they basically don't go to class. They just do everything on their own because their teachers don't take attendance or whatever. But my youngest, he has to be in class like all day. Like he has to do everything. And I gave up, Mike. I did. Okay. In the beginning, he had a desk and we were doing the whole thing. Now he's like in bed and he's like, the camera off, not paying any attention on his phone. And I've just been like, yeah, whatever. You got to see
Yeah.
and everything. And
You
I
know,
don't give a shit anymore.
we only step in when the grades become alarming. But yeah, it's like I'm honestly I'm a little something between frustrated and upset with the teachers because I feel like they all know this is a damn sham. We all know
Yeah.
this is a sham. We all know nobody's learning anything. So like, how seriously is this fucking test? You know what I'm saying? Like how much? How I don't know, man. I just feel like we're gonna look back on this year and one would hope that we'd be able to give these kids some kind of leeway.
Yeah, Arthur has one teacher who she gives him so much work every day, and it's all just this dumbass busy work. Like he's not learning anything about Mesopotamia right now. Like he's not. He's watching the video half asleep and like literally earlier when I went out there, he was on his skateboard riding it up and down the hall, holding his school computer, going back and forth. And I was like, well, this is probably great for ADHD, but honestly, it's also not ideal.
It's not. But that's the thing. It's there's so many different learning styles with kids, and very few of them are attuned to like sitting in front of a computer. You know,
and self-motivating. Please, my 12-year-old, my kid he's not a self-motivator. He's not like, I got to get on this and I got to keep this schedule and I got to read 65 emails every day and like his job is worse than mine, and it's like hard to watch, but yeah. We're all doing Zoom class together. I like that. That's where it's at. Well, I like that you sort of realized, I think that chaos in the universe and the universe not caring about you. What do you think happens when you die? What are your feelings on the afterlife?
Well, I guess because our like the stuff we're made of has to find its way back into the ecosystem somehow. All of our bodies, flesh, bones, fingernails. Like, okay. I still feel like it's really weird that we put ourselves in caskets. I think that's strange. It takes millions of years to generate the stuff that we are. And we don't return it to the dirt at all, which is like mad weird to me. We're living off fossil fuels, which is like compressed old dinosaur flesh. And then we don't contribute any of our corporeal bodies to the system at all. We just use it all up and keep it in ourselves and put ourselves in a box and seal it away. So physically strange because I really feel like we're supposed to be part of this system that things degenerate and get recomposed and reconstituted and go back through the system. In terms of our consciousness, like, I have no idea. There's just like, I feel like consciousness, soul, spirit, all of that's kind of like one undefinable thing. And I don't know what sparks it. So I don't know what happens to it. Reincarnation seems like some sort of possibility, but not like one-to-one reincarnation because there's more people than there's ever been, so that wouldn't make any sense. One would think that whatever this consciousness is, it goes into a big consciousness bowl, and then as new conscious beings arise, they get little pieces of what's in this bowl. But I have no way of understanding what that process is or what it would be like, or if if the part of our consciousness that logs experience is able to log any of that or process any of that without a nervous system, because part of our consciousness is just a side effect of having a nervous system where we have these instruments that detect photons and instruments that detect sound waves, and smells, and we interact with an environment that kind of creates our consciousness, is putting all of this, like putting this entire picture together. And once our consciousness is separated from this nervous system, I have no idea if there's even information processing that's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I was watching this documentary the other day, and they're talking about how your gut has a second nervous system.
Yeah.
And that is basically has as many neurons as a dog or cat. And that basically like a gut feeling is not, it's actually a thought in a way, like it's a real thing. And that's kind of, I was thinking about that too, about like, well then, so we have this very complex brain that's always talking to your gut, which is also desperately trying to tell you a bunch of things that we've learned to ignore. I don't know. I just feel like we don't spend enough time talking about that two brain, like how that connects to our consciousness, because so much of consciousness to me sort of gets defined as, I hope I can articulate this, language. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yes, 100%.
As the articulation of sensation, whereas as, maybe the soul is a deeper sense
deeper than
organ,
language, right?
I guess, that doesn't need the articulation, because I think so much of being a human is trying to express and share what you're feeling, but that's not, I mean, if COVID is teaching us anything, it's like, oh, here alone, you still experience that, you're a little tree falling in the woods out here by yourself, and it's still happening. So
yeah, and we still share consciousness, and now we got always these new ways to do it. Like I think about the difference between what this pandemic must be like versus what like the Spanish flu was like, when they had to stop everything they were doing, and it wasn't a TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Like what did they do?
Yeah, you got a letter every 6 weeks from your sister that you read 85 times in a row.
Exactly.
I mean, talk about a perfectly crafted response. You get the letter that you get to send. Like you get one letter. You probably rewrote that, and you were so careful, or maybe ink was so precious you really that was it. You got one and done, and hopefully you got everything you wanted to say out to your sister in Des Moines. I don't know. I like what you said about the body too, because it is funny that humans are so precious about that we're like, yeah, I'm not gonna decompose. No, thank you.
It's weird. It's really weird. Like and it probably goes back to, I don't know if the Egyptians popularized, separating the body from the death process, the decomposition process. But it's odd. It's like there's been so many humans on this planet who have a deep understanding of what the cycle of life was like. It's just hard to imagine how the dominant way that quote unquote civilized people have treated death of the body is by putting it in a box and sealing it away.
Yeah,
under
embalming
the ground.
it.
It's really odd.
I've been terrified of embalming since I was a child. I took a taxidermy class as a kid, and I remember just sort of having that feeling of like, we're not supposed to, like, after hearing about the embalming process, just being like, we're not supposed to have that done for sure, though. That's like a weird Christianity thing of like, Jesus is going to come back and your body's going to be pristine. Don't worry about it. Like it just has always really creeped me out.
Strange.
How do you feel about cremation? Would you be cremated?
It seems like a better option.
Yeah.
It seems like something more respectful of the processes that create us.
Yeah.
But then again, if I'm the earth, I don't know if I want a bunch of char back in return either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just putting out a giant cigarette, but it's like, no, it might be good if the fresh stuff that's in us, was able to like go into some soil or some shit. I don't know. It just seems it would seem that we should have a better system.
I like the idea of just being buried. Like you said, just being buried sounds nice to me, because it also, I was watching another thing, and it was talking about how the reason I'm very fascinated by fungi,
Mhm.
And it was talking about how the reason we have oil is because all of that got compressed during a time when it was like pre-fungi. And now we would never have that. I forget what that period of time is called. Carboniferous. I've said that wrong, but who cares? Carboniferous. You would never have that again because fungus would break all that material down, and that's why we have oils, because that was pre-fungi. And so the thing I was watching was all about like how you're essentially eaten by all these different things after you die, and how like lichen covers like most of the planet, and we don't even really ever think about it, or it's just kind of on everything, and moss. And I don't know, I think that that's a really interesting thing, that like the fossil fuel, like you said, something we rely on so heavily that's so harmful, is not, we can't even be made into that anymore.
Yeah.
We're just mushroom food at the end of the day.
Wow.
Yeah. I watch a lot of documentaries on mushrooms. I'm very fascinated.
I didn't know that there was a time when they weren't around. That's interesting to me. I would have assumed that that's something that's been around before, before sentient beings. I would have figured that fungi had been around before that.
Yeah, I think, obviously I'm not a biologist, and I probably am getting this so wrong, and we'll get emails about it, but the high amount of oxygen during the Cretaceous period or whatever, or Jurassic period, that caused, bugs and everything to be giant and dinosaurs to be giant, wasn't as conducive to mushrooms and that sort of thing. So I'm sure maybe they were around, but they weren't like prevalent like today. They cover everything. So yeah, that's my mushroom talk on that.
Mushroom talk.
The last question I ask you, and I always do one question that's just kind of like for the person, tailored to them, not really about the afterlife or anything, but I just want to know, and if it's fine, we could, because your kid's in the other room, so if you don't want to talk about this, what's life like post-divorce?
It's still rougher than I thought it would be, but I think that's sort of pandemic exacerbated as well. I moved into my own place the first week of February, in 2020. I went on a tour that came back at the end of February, and I was in my place for like 2 weeks before the world shut down.
Wow, how weird!
Yeah,
how weird!
It was really something. It was really something. Like, because if there was at one time there was talk that I might not even moved out until after the tour, right? That would have been a fucking disaster.
Wow,
that would have been the dirt worst. So like, so when on one hand I dodged a bullet in terms of the timing could have been absolutely way worse, but on the other hand, just entering this phase of my life as things have become so difficult in general, I think it's just made it a little bit harder for me to push all the way through. And I think in some ways I'm still earlier on in the process of putting my psychological self and my social self back together. I think some of that's still kind of fragmented and stilted. And yeah, so I think I'm still at the beginning of kind of, not the beginning, but not as far along as I would expect it to be 1 year in.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting thing, because I feel like on the one hand I'm sort of like, oh, that is probably really good, because what you need after a divorce is a lot of time with yourself, and most people don't take that. Most people after a divorce, it's so funny how many friends now, I'm years into this, and I have lots of advice if anybody wants it, but nobody ever does, because when people are getting divorced, usually they're like, no, I've already met someone and we're moving in together. And it's like, no, what you need is to be alone. You need some time by yourself.
I hate to break it to you, but I didn't, as part of it too, I didn't do that right. Like I didn't do it the rightest, because there was a person, you know what I'm saying? And so there is a person.
Sure.
And I think that in terms of the pandemic thing, it's like we kind of had to make a choice.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
either we were going to be around each other all the time or like not at all.
Yeah, I
You
guess
know,
that's true. Yeah.
and we pick all the time, and it's not all the time, but like it's a lot.
Yeah.
And in some ways, again, like that's something that it's good for that part of my life, but for the part of my life, if you're asking me like, the like what's it like post divorce, that's that part of me has not been adequately attended to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that part has that plant has not received enough water.
Yeah, because even if you're dating somebody right away, I think like post divorce, you just need time to heal. You need time to go on a long trip by yourself and stare at the ocean and feel sad. And there's so much processing that happens. I really feel like my ex and I, my kid's dad, he and I came to like finally a place of equilibrium this year. Finally. And honestly, like 3 months ago. And it has been 10 years. Granted,
wow.
There's extenuating circumstances in that.
Of course.
But I do feel like 4 or 5 months ago, actually last year when I got COVID, we think I never got tested, but I was so sick. And it was like the first time I think he was really like, oh, how do I picture a world without my baby's mom in it, without my kid's mom. And I think he was for the first time like, oh, no, that's a shitty world, because I have primarily raised them and do a lot with them and they would miss me. So I think it was kind of this wake up call for him. And then things got better afterward. But it takes a long time. It's hard. It's really hard to end a world with somebody,
Yeah. Yes. Because, what I often tell people now that I have this wisdom is that it's not just about coronating or celebrating your romantic relationship when you get married. You really are putting your lives together. You're making one life out of two lives. And if you have kids, that's a whole nother level. If y'all have any business interests, that's a whole nother level. Like, and you have all of these hats and they're all on the same pair of heads. Like it's two heads under like six hats. You know what I'm saying? And you pulling them all kinds of different ways. And it takes a lot of psychological adjustment to, reclaim your oneness. And, I have not done the best job. Given everything I know, I have not done the best job.
It's hard. I mean, my relationship, my last relationship, we continued to run festivals together for 3 years. And then luckily pre-COVID, I was like, I think I'm done. Like, I'm just exhausted. It's too much work. I don't want to do the festivals anymore. And then COVID hit. So it turned out I was like a little prophet and we hadn't put a year's worth of work into 2 festivals. But even still, I think us not having that year around each other has been like, we haven't spoken in a year and it's been fabulous. I think for both of us, it's been amazing. And I think that's really what we needed, was to be able to we don't have kids together. So we didn't have to.
Yeah. There was no definite reason to stay in contact. Yeah. So you get to enjoy being contact free.
Yeah. And that way, he can be like, I hate her. She's terrible. I don't think he's actually doing that. But you can be as mad as you need to be about things. Yeah. You can be as sad as you need to be about things. I just think it's a lot easier apart. But with kids, you don't ever get to have that luxury. You're tied to that person. And
it's funny. You said something a second ago about you needing to give yourself space to be as sad as you need to be. And because I haven't done that, and we share custody, so my son's here 1 week, and then the other week he's not, and then I have a relationship I'm in. What I find is that the few moments alone I have, I try to squeeze like 2 weeks worth of sadness into every one of those. I try to the whole I try to have the big cry. I just want like it's on a cycle. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It is. It is not good math. It's not good math.
Yeah, that was really hard because I went straight from my marriage to my other relationship. And I remember having that feeling of like that I just didn't really have the time to grieve because I felt weird doing that in front of the person I was with because they're like happy to be with you and you're happy to be with them. But also it's like, I still have all this stuff I'm sad about that I haven't really had a chance to deal with. And it's like, I wasn't very good at the time about, I don't think I grieved my divorce until after after I had broken up with that other person. I grieved too.
That's a scary thing to tell me.
Sorry,
that's a scary thing.
You'll be better. You'll do better than I did. I mean, I think people can do it. Obviously, I think I didn't want to be sad. I also just don't think we as a society create space enough for that grief, for the grief of divorce. People kind of
we really
get over it.
I don't think we really give ourselves enough room for any kind of grief.
Yeah.
I guess loss of life, people tend to give you a little space.
Yeah.
But even then, you got to announce it to people. Do you know what I'm saying? If somebody passed away before they give you the space, we need to have some sort of function where, there's a button we can press and just let everybody know this is a dark month.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To pull the curtains closed, without some sort of weird announcement,
Yes. Yeah.
Because we don't have enough space for darkness. This is what I was talking about on Twitter earlier too. We need dark, sad Twitter.
Yes.
We need dark, sad lifetime, not the channel.
Yeah.
For people,
Yeah, I need that right now because my cousin died either of suicide or murder.
Oh my God.
We're not totally sure, but I don't really want to make an announcement about it, partly because then it kind of seems like you're doing it for clout or something, and I'm like, no, I just I want to talk about this and I want to talk about her and how much I miss her and how sad the whole thing is, but at the same time I feel weird talking about it publicly.
Well, Emma, there's this too. And this is the thing that people don't really understand about when you're a creator. There's some stuff that you're going to need to say that is for humans that know you to hear, but not fans.
Yeah.
That's not a fan thing. And there's I think with a lot of us, there's no way to separate that,
Yeah. Yeah. And oh man, I want a Twitter that's just my friends because
yes,
I don't get to see everybody, I'm not especially right now, but I can't just be in LA and go out to lunch with everybody and be like, oh, I'm really sad because of this thing happened. But I just want a sad Twitter where it's just my friends and I can be like, yeah, my cousin died and I thought I wasn't having any emotional reaction to it, but then I stopped eating for 4 days. So that's what I'm also realizing about myself is, and my therapist would just be like, yeah, no shit. Is that I had this realization yesterday that I was like, a meltdown for me, an emotional meltdown looks like the complete absence of anything. It looks like an absence of behaviors, an absence of emotion. For a couple weeks after my cousin died, my family, I cried really hard the first week. Then it was the next week, I just kind of felt really quiet and I didn't really want to talk to anybody and I didn't eat anything and everything just seemed really hard. I didn't do the dishes for an entire week.
The shutdown.
It's the shutdown. And that's what I do and I think I expect, when somebody's having a meltdown, you sort of expect oh, they're really emotional or I don't know.
It's had some type of outburst.
Yeah. And for me, it's, I just go more and more internal. And the more people try to reach out to me, the more resentful of that I get.
Yeah.
The more people are like, I'm just checking on you. The more I'm like, never talk to me again.
Yeah. Oh man. I really, I got to tell you that resonates with me a lot.
Yeah.
It resonates with me a ton. I kind of am the same thing where I think for me, I have such a hard time making space for my own feelings that when I'm feeling them, the last thing I want to do is talk to anybody about them. It's the last thing. Because I feel like I even lose a little bit of the connection with them. I'm trying to explain them to somebody. Because just with my own upbringing and my own issues, I spend a lot of time distancing myself from my feelings. So when I'm in touch with them, I need to just sit with that, and that's not always something that is a healthy process with me, but that's what it looks like, you know?
Yeah, I'm the same. And like I have a few friends who've been texting me every day and checking on me and being like, "Do you want to go for a walk? Can I call you?" blah blah blah. And I'm like, the more they do that, the more I just ignore them because I just feel like, yeah, I just how I process something is be very quiet about it and like paint. You know what I mean? Or like
Mm,
it comes out in other ways or like I cook something and I feel like a lot of I finally started to be okay as I gotten older being like, not everything has to be fucking verbal. Like
yeah.
I'm so used to being a verbal person and processing everything through writing and narrative and all these other things. And I've started to be like, not everything has to be that. Like sometimes you can just like go paint for a while or go for a walk or, I think it's a lot of us grew up really lonely. I grew up
Hmm.
really alone and I learned to process things on my own quietly.
Yeah.
And that's okay, I think.
Yeah.
Not always healthy, but it works
Yeah.
out in
And I
the
think
end.
that's it, right? Like, cause it is certainly the way that I'm most comfortable experiencing my emotions is quietly, but what, going hand in hand with that, the truth of the matter is I've learned for me that that's not always the healthiest way.
Yeah.
Because I don't, for me, there can be a danger in trying to process darkness without any sort of assistance. Because I can lean towards comfort, lean towards what's easy. And a lot of times that's behavior that only creates more issues.
Yeah. I don't have any of that left, and it's such a bummer. I have gotten to a point where, like, I don't know if I'm just older or I've done so much therapy. I don't really have any vices left.
That's great.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, I
No,
mean,
no, it is. It is. It's great, but it's so like when I'm going through something like that, like something happened with my partner recently, and we were talking about a lot of intimacy stuff, and I was like, this is so annoying because this is usually with a person where I would be like, that's fine, and then I would get another boyfriend, like I would just
yeah,
be
a
like,
secret one.
yeah,
Yeah.
a secret boyfriend, and I would just like I felt vulnerable and I felt rejected and my feelings were hurt, and usually that's when I would just turn to someone else and have that need met, and instead that doesn't work for me anymore. And it's not
Hmm.
even because I've like buckled down and I'm white knuckling and I'm making a choice not to do it. It's not. It's because honestly, I've done enough, I guess, therapy or whatever that finally it just doesn't feel good. When I try to go create a little bit of chaos in my life, I'm just like, ooh, annoying chaos. Ugh.
Right. Because I mean, I would imagine you probably see it in more of a long view now, right? Where like whatever little endorphin that would be, you can also see the long trails of it and how it would mess things up further.
I don't even think it's that because it wouldn't. Like the relationship I'm in now, if I was like, I'm going to go get a boyfriend and I'm going to go get my ego stroked and get the dopamine I need. And he would be like, okay. And I would be like, oh, okay. And then, in fact, I've done it a couple of times where I started texting someone and then immediately I was like, I don't even like this person. It doesn't even, I don't get the dopamine anymore. Like that
I see.
those ruts are, they've weeded over, they've got grass in them now. And it doesn't work. It's a weird feeling because like even when I've been like, I'm going to be self-indulgent and I'm going to do this behavior that used to feel good during COVID and I like call an ex-boyfriend. And within 20 minutes, I'm like, I'd rather be on a walk. It's too bad. It's too bad. I call this very problematic ex of mine back in the summer. Just someone who has always created so much chaos. And he just started lecturing me about like the Golden Globes or something. And I was immediately like, oh, I
I
don't,
remember.
yeah. Why did I think this would be like a problematic behavior when I can't even sit through my own bullshit for 20 minutes anymore? Yeah. But at the same
Wow.
time, it's boring, you know?
Yeah, you've gotten healthy and boring.
Yeah.
But that's the goal.
It is the goal.
That's the goal.
I kind
That's the goal.
of,
Being healthy and boring.
it's like, oh, I was telling my therapist like a while ago, I was like, is this it? Like all of this work, all of this has finally led to a point where like I'm just like peaceful in a chair in the backyard And he was like, yeah. And I was like, well, that's fucking dumb. That's bullshit. Like, I thought there was going to be some like Oz style land that I got to
Yeah.
where I was euphoric all the time. But no, I just feel pretty good, you know? I
Wow.
just feel calm.
Well, we're gonna have to stay in touch about this because I feel like I'm walking that path, and I don't want to expect a cake if there's not gonna be a
There's
cake.
no cake.
There's no cake.
There's no cake. There's
Oh man.
a rice. What are those called? You know, the doesn't matter. I can't think of what they're called. The rice cakes. The rice cakes.
Oh, rice cakes.
That's what I couldn't think of.
A candle on a rice cake would not be good.
There's a rice cake with almond butter and a small glass of soy milk at the end, and you're like, oh, this is good. This is fine.
Yeah,
This is fine. It's so much work, so many years of work, and what you have at the end is that you know, yeah, you feel all right. Which I guess when you're in the chaos, we both have been there. We've lived in the chaos, and it's exhausting. So
I'm still in the, I'm still largely in the vestiges of it. Like I'm like I created so much mess for myself. I'm going to be digging out of it for a while.
Ooh.
Like even when I am no longer subject to any of the behaviors or impulses, the damage that I've already done, like I'm going to be dealing with this.
Yeah.
I'm going to be dealing with this because like there's people who I consider friends that I've hurt. There's, you know what I'm saying? Like there's, and I have to figure out how to make peace with all of that going forward too. I have to figure out how to organize it, how to talk about it, how to like potentially bring a person into my mess, and like there's a lot to it.
yeah,
There's a lot to it.
That is a big, I spent like 3 years, I did like the ninth step, the amends and all that. And I had been dreading it. And then when I finally did it, I was like, why was I so afraid of this for so long? Because it finally did. Like I spent 3 years sort of like digging, like you said, I had created so much damage. I had so much work to do and so much to clean up. And the end of it, like when I sort of, maybe that's part of it is like, you're right. Like when you come out the other end, you're like, I don't need to do that again. Like when you actually clean up your mess, it's a good motivator. Like I'm watching someone right now, this woman here, she has made this massive mess here in Boise. And she just keeps doubling down in that beautiful hubris way where you just are watching someone's fall just get kicked 6 months down the road. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Oh, it's going to be, and I don't mean this maliciously, but like, I love a fall. I loved my own. I love it. Like, because it's such a beautiful human thing. And when you're watching someone kick it down the road, you're like, it's inevitable. Humiliation is inevitable. If you are making these messes in your life, eventually you're going to have to either clean them up or die,
Yeah.
And it's just watching someone put it off and put it off and put it off is always fascinating to me because once you clean it up, you're kind of like, oh, I learned enough to not create that again. I hope,
One would hope.
One would hope. Who knows? We could have a real Rumspringa next year. Anything could happen. Well, Mike, it's been so amazing talking to you.
Yeah, this has been fantastic.
Stick around. Where can people find you on all the socials?
I'm at Mike_Eagle on Twitter, at open_Mike_Eagle on Instagram.
And your new album's available everywhere, Anime, Trauma, and Divorce. And it is so beautiful. It is just,
thank you.
You didn't mean it to be an anthem for COVID, but it ended up being it anyway. And
it certainly has resonated with people on that tip.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's just absolutely gorgeous. You guys check out Open Mike Eagle everywhere. He's such an amazing person and an amazing artist. And thanks for listening to What's Next. Follow me on the Patreon for the full episode. You got the edited episode if you're listening on Spotify or anywhere else on Apple, whatever podcast. If you want the full episode, you can have it on patreon.com/Emma Arnold. All right. Love you. Bye.